We are told stories of power, of miracles, divine intervention, and perhaps no story is more ingrained in our collective consciousness than the plagues of Egypt. 10 acts, described as the hand of God, freeing a people from bondage. But tonight, we will not look at them as miracles. We will look at them as they truly were. Acts of immense, indiscriminate cruelty. Let us begin with the first plague, water to blood. Imagine the Nile, not just a river, but the lifeblood of Egypt. Its waters suddenly, horrifically, turned to congealed crimson. Not just visually disturbing, but utterly undrinkable. 7 days, the scripture tells us. 7 days without potable water in a desert climate. Think of the real agonizing thirst, the fear, the desperation. This was not a warning. This was the immediate, suffocating hand of a water crisis, instantly poisoning the very source of life for millions. Animals would have perished first, collapsing in the sun. Humans would have followed, their bodies failing in a slow, agonizing descent. This wasn't a sign. It was a mass poisoning. Next, the second plague. Frogs. The land swarmed. Homes, beds, ovens. Every surface crawling with cold, slimy amphibians. The scripture says they died in heaps. Imagine the stench, the putrefaction. Disease would have spread like wildfire, carried by the decaying bodies. This was not merely an inconvenience. This was an ecological disaster, a biological weapon turning the environment itself into a breeding ground for sickness and despair. The psychological toll of an inescapable, writhing infestation would have been immense. Then the third plague, gnats, and the fourth plague, flies. These are often dismissed as minor annoyances, but picture it. Tiny, biting insects, relentlessly tormenting every living creature, skin covered in welts, eyes swollen shut, with no relief, day or night. These aren't just pests, they're vectors of disease, they're instruments of torture, driving people to madness through constant irritation and the terrifying threat of infection in a pre-antibiotic world. Animals unable to swat them away effectively would have suffered endlessly. This was a living torment designed to strip away comfort, hygiene, and sanity. The fifth plague, death of livestock. A targeted strike. All the horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, and sheep, gone. Imagine a society utterly dependent on these animals for transport, for food, for labor, for trade. Their entire economy, their very means of survival, wiped out in a single, devastating blow. This wasn't divine intervention for a chosen few. This was an economic collapse, a famine engineered, plunging millions into immediate poverty and starvation. The cries of the dying animals, the despair of their owners, would have echoed across the land. Then, the sixth plague, boils. Running sores, festering wounds, covering every person and animal, excruciating pain, relentless itching, no relief. In an age without advanced medicine, these boils would have led to rampant infection, fever, and death. Every touch, every movement, a fresh agony. This was not merely a symbol of affliction, this was a widespread epidemic. A biological attack designed to inflict maximum physical suffering and debility, leaving the strong weak and the weak dying. The seventh plague, hail and fire. Imagine the sky opening up, not with rain, but with giant hailstones mixed with lightning. Every plant destroyed, every tree shattered. Any human or animal caught outside would have been instantly crushed or incinerated. This was not a storm. This was an act of scorched earth warfare, obliterating the agricultural infrastructure, guaranteeing future famine, and instilling absolute terror. The sheer force would have leveled homes, killed countless people, and left the land utterly barren. The eighth plague, locusts. After the hail, any remaining plant life, any hope for recovery, was consumed by swarms so vast they darkened the sky. This was the final absolute destruction of any food source, a calculated act of starvation, ensuring that nothing could grow, nothing could be harvested. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. This was a targeted, overwhelming biological assault designed to eliminate any means of sustenance, leaving an entire nation facing absolute famine. The ninth plague, darkness. For 3 days, a darkness so profound, so absolute, that people could not see each other, could not move. Imagine the terror of this sudden, inescapable blindness. The psychological impact of being plunged into total sensory deprivation, disoriented, vulnerable, for 72 agonizing hours. This was not merely a display of power over light. This was a calculated act of mental torture, designed to break the will through fear and utter helplessness. And finally, the 10th plague, death of the firstborn. This is the one that chills us most, the ultimate indiscriminate act. The defense will argue this was the final, devastating blow required to free a people from bondage. But let us look at the evidence. The stroke of death did not fall upon the throne, it fell upon the cradle. The firstborn son, the firstborn daughter, the firstborn of every beast in the land. Final, indiscriminate act of violence, not against the tyrant, but against the innocent, the vulnerable, the unsuspecting. Imagine the wailing across the land, the sudden, inexplicable loss of every family's eldest, innocent child. This was a mass execution, a calculated sacrifice of the most precious lives. When we strip away the veneer of divine miracle, what are we left with? Not a compassionate act of liberation, but a campaign of terror. A series of escalating biological, environmental, economic, and psychological attacks. Millions would have suffered. Millions would have died. The innocent perished alongside the guilty. Children, animals, entire ecosystems obliterated. Would we praise a dictator who unleashed such devastation today? Would we laud a world leader who poisoned rivers, sent plagues, destroyed crops, and executed the children of his enemies? Then why do we excuse it in a God?